to go into the seafood market 2 minutes away.
Try again to call this April 15th meeting of the ONWASA Board of Directors to order. Mr. Hudson will offer the invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As is your custom, please bow with me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the ability to come here in freedom, dear Lord, and conduct the business of the community. We ask your blessings upon this board and those that are gathered. Please give us wisdom, dear God, as we move forward and discuss these issues this evening. Guide us and direct us so that it will be of benefit to our community. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
The record warden will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We join in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please turn your cell phones off or vibrate. Individuals making presentations or public comments are asked to adjust the microphones as necessary and to speak directly into the microphone. This meeting is being recorded. First item of business is the approval of the agenda as amended, submitted, and you should have in front of you a requested addition to the agenda for a closed session, which I have indicated would be item 4A if approved.
a motion.
Motion moved to approve the agenda as admitted, submitted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Approval of items on the consent agenda. The action requested is to consider a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of items A through F. Need a motion? Have a motion? A second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Adopted. First item of business is the comprehensive annual financial report presenting Mr. Robert Bittner, my favorite brother. No relative, no.
Good evening. Y'all hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Sure the mic can. Anyway, thank y'all for having us here today. We certainly do appreciate serving the ONWASA. We really do enjoy it. Thank you, Mr. Hudson, Ms. Riggs, for all the help that you provide during the course of the audit. We are a bit of a headache when we come in to perform an audit, so it is definitely, we are a bit of a headache, but that's, it means we're doing our job. So with that, but first, just do a quick introduction. My name is Robbie Bittner. I'm a partner with PB Mayers. You're probably wondering why a partner from PB Mayers is standing here and not with RSM. As of December 1st, 2020, the offices of Morehead City and New Bern for RSM broke off and joined PB Mayers, which is an RSM alliance firm. We did complete the audit this year as RSM. However, going forward, our local offices are now PB Mayers, which is a smaller firm based in Virginia that is actually more aligned with the local and state government group, as well as utilities and nonprofits. So a little bit better for a client-based perspective. So from there, I'll start off. As auditors, we are charged with rendering an opinion on whether or not we believe that your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP. As such, we can issue four types of opinion. We can issue an adverse opinion, where we believe that your financial statements are not fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, which is the worst one we can issue. We can issue a disclaimer of opinion. This is where we did not even receive enough information in order to render an opinion at all. We can issue a modified or qualified opinion. This is where we believe that your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with GAAP, except for maybe one or two parts. And the highest level of assurance that we can provide as auditors is an unmodified or clean opinion, which the authority did receive that this year. So, in addition to our audit opinion on the financial statements, in accordance with government auditing standards, we are required to issue a report regarding the authority's compliance with laws, regulations, grants, contracts, as well as report on any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control that are identified during the course of our audit. I'm happy to say that we did not identify any instances of material noncompliance with laws, grants, contracts, and we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control. So, from there, I think each of you also received this letter. This is what's known as your SAS, what used to be called the SAS 114, now the AUC 260 Auditor's Communication to those charged with governance. This is a collection of required communications by audit standards that we have to give and present each year. And I'm not going to hit on a whole lot of these since you can read through them, but I will hit kind of the highlights. This year, there were no implementations of any new accounting standards. Due to COVID-19, the GASB issued statement number 95, which effectively delayed the implementation of all outstanding standards by 12 months, except for statement number 87, which was delayed by 18 months. A couple of the other items on here, we did not have any disagreements with management. We did not identify any significant or unusual transactions during the course of the audit here through the course of our audit. We did have one uncorrected misstatement related to a simple timing issue that would have zero effect on the statement of activities for the current year. And last piece that I will point out on this letter is that there is a listing of all of the significant accounting estimates that are used in the preparation of the financial statements by management each year. It will show the method of making the estimate, as well as the audit work that we did and where we came to believing that it was reasonable. And then attached to this letter are the significant communications that we had with management, which only consisted of the management's representation letter and then a short management letter where one minor control deficiency was identified, and it's related to the uncorrected misstatement that was identified in the course of the audit. So with that concludes a quick and easy presentation. All in all, clean audit. We couldn't do it without the help of management and staff. They really do. They do go out of their way to get us what we need, and what we need is not a little; it's a lot. So we want to say thank you, and thank you to the staff that are here. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions?
No, sir.
Hearing none, need a motion to accept the comprehensive annual financial report.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is adopted. Item 8, capital projects update, presenting Mr. David Moore.
Just fine, sir. I'd like to say it's a pleasure to come up here just because I can take this off. Chairman Bender, members of the board, as noted in tonight's agenda, tonight's the start of regular presentations to the board on active capital improvement projects. This will be focused primarily on those projects now under construction or recently completed. It's not intended to be a comprehensive review of the entire capital improvement program, but my goal is to illustrate the result of all the planning and budgeting meetings we all had to sit through over the past few years. As this is my first attempt, I've decided to keep it fairly brief, and I've offered information on 3 projects. And if this works, yay. Calling them capital construction snapshot. Slide 1, aerial crossings. This slide shows one of the approximately 50 aerial waterway crossings within the ONWASA water distribution system. This site's along Highway 17 north of the city of Jacksonville, and it was one of 2 damaged during Hurricane Florence. Actually, there was another pier in between the 2 you see in the photograph that just disappeared during the hurricane itself. Both sites were replaced with new underground piping using horizontal directional drill techniques under a project completed last October. And no surprise, the result looks like that. The result of the completed project is a water main fully protected from future storms and man-made events such as vehicle impact, and we have had them hit by cars. Total cost of the work at this site is roughly a 400-foot directional bore was $70,000. However, $36,000 of that is eligible for reimbursement from FEMA, so they're picked up half the cost. The second project, Northwest Regional Water Reclamation Facility. This slide illustrates the aftermath of flooding that occurred at the Northwest Wastewater Treatment Facility during Hurricane Florence. For those that weren't here at the time, more than 3 feet of water entered the building that houses disfiltration and ultraviolet disinfection systems. It heavily damaged the equipment and disabled the treatment process. Today, the UV filter building is back in operation. Work was completed in December 2020 on the first of 2 competitively bid construction projects. This slide shows a new open channel ultraviolet filtration system is installed as part of the project. And if you'll notice, all the control panels are elevated above the walkway. Everything in there has been elevated to protect up to and above the 500-year flood event. This project totaled roughly $1.5 million. It included repairs to the disfiltration system, and actually we elevated the entire electrical control system up 1 story within the building. So you climb a set of stairs now to go to the electrical system work. I think everything had to be probably close to 4 or 5 feet. The electrical building's actually 8 feet, 1 story up. Work on the second project, I don't have a slide for that because it's just now getting started. Second project's plant-wide electrical and control system rehabilitation. We're also doing additional flood mitigation improvements. They're going to be funded in part by FEMA. The total's roughly $4.8 million. They've just started work. We're actually going to pick up the existing plant generator and move it tomorrow, and if you've ever seen it, it's a beast. So that'll be an interesting project. I'm going to provide updates on that one as it goes along. My last slide, a little bit hard to see, but central office. I now have the ability to see as many as 3 construction projects from my office window. So saves on traffic time. This slide shows site preparation work underway for a new water chemistry lab facility to be constructed adjacent to the main office on Georgetown Road. For those of you who haven't been to the site in a while, this is kind of between the administration building and the parking lot for the park next to it. This picture was taken when they were just first prepping the site and leveling it out, so it's not too exciting. Work has accelerated since this photo, however. Concrete for building foundations was poured this week. The building's roughly 4,000 square feet with a construction budget of around $2.2 million and should be completed by the end of the year. The other 2 projects I'd mentioned, in addition to the laboratory, construction has also started on a new 4,900 square foot warehouse building that's located behind the main office in the parking area. They just started working on the site within the last 2 weeks. It's primarily a metal building with a concrete slab. The main office is also scheduled for roof replacement. That was in the CIP. Roughly 21,000 square feet, $340,000 project cost. We're going to have a progress meeting next week, mobilize and begin work in the next 30 days. The roof is due to be done by sometime in July, and the warehouse due to be completed in April of 22. Warehouse is not a complicated building, but the lead time for the metal building itself is quite extensive, so we have quite a long construction period in it. I guess one other thing I would mention, I'm out of slides, but this is more of a design project. Design is well underway on the force main between Swansboro and the Piney Green Pump Station, kind of our solution for the Swansboro capacity issue. We're also designing a new water main between the Hubert plant and the Piney Green area at the same time. They're going to travel the same alignment. We're due to have 50% complete design drawings by the end of May and bid the project before the end of the year, so we're on schedule. The engineering consultant firm is taking it pretty hard. That's going to be a big one to see come out this fall. That's kind of what I have. It's short and sweet. I hope this is helpful. I'll answer any questions if you have any. Or...
Go ahead,
My
Joanne.
only question was, when it comes to the laboratory addition, I know that the cost of all kinds of building materials have just skyrocketed. Are we able to stay within our project expected budget at this point, or have you heard that anything's going to be?
No, I haven't heard anything that there's a problem. The warehouse building, there was a little, between the time bids were opened and we actually executed the contract, there was a slight fluctuation in the steel price for that. But no, as I said, the contractors picked up the pace, progress is good. Right now, I think we'll be on our budget.
Good, thank you.
Yes, it's going to have a sloped insulation, so it'll have a slight pitch to it. I mean, it's not going to be an A-frame, but it'll have, so it'll drain positively. And it'll be a membrane roof sealed all the way across.
Questions? Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Item C, presentation of the fiscal year 2021-2022 proposed budget. Presenting Mr. Hudson and Ms. Tiffany Riggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board. This evening, Ms. Riggs and I will be talking about the proposed 21-22 budget. All members of the board should have received that last week. And so, first of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about the process. The process is similar to what we've followed in prior years. First of all, we took a look at the board directives, and thankfully we do have as staff clear board directives to take a look at. So our CIP, for instance, the board has approved the CIP. That's the first thing that we look at. Financial plans, we looked at Raftellus financial plans. Raftellus Financial has been guiding the board for several years in terms of our rate study, and they've been working with Doug and Andrew Carter and also our CIP, and basically determine what is necessary to pay for the CIP. I'd like to draw attention to something at your desk this evening. So just for your review later on is a memo from Raftellus. This is an example of the type of data that we receive and that we take a look at. This was written just yesterday for the board, just as a kind of a reminder of where Raftellus has been and how they've been advising us with the current budget. So we look at financial plans, we look at board goals in the strategic plan, and really we wanted to focus on two board goals, and I guess you could say these are the two board goals that we'll be looking at every year. First of all is reliable and sufficient infrastructure. ONWASA being a utility, we're all about infrastructure. We have to have the infrastructure to deliver our product, water, or to collect wastewater and treat it. And also financial stewardship, making sure that we are generating the revenues necessary to manage the system well, cover our operational and maintenance expenses, which Ms. Riggs will go into in a little bit more depth in a couple of minutes, and also pay for that infrastructure that we're going to be building in the next several years. Look at environmental pressures. What has COVID done over the last 12 months? How are our accounts? Looking at revenue projections. What kind of growth have we had happen? What's the demand of water? Not just demand of water in an existing household, but how many new accounts have we been pulling in for water or for sewer? Then our budget team develops guidelines for departments. Back November 4th, 2020, we sat down with our departments and we gave them the guidelines for this coming year's budget. The departments then took those guidelines and they started researching. They researched cost increases, equipment repairs, replacements, and then they created budget requests. After they submitted those budget requests, our real work as staff began. Then we started meeting with departments to craft that proposed budget. And once again, Ms. Riggs, in just a moment, will tell you a little bit about what we did between the departmental submittal and when you got the management proposed budget. And then finally delivered to the board for your consideration. I don't believe this slide is new news to those in this room, but those watching from television or at home on G10 might be surprised at how large ONWASA really is. We serve about 146,000 people, and we pump right now, these are new numbers, we update these annually, 3.3 billion gallons of water over the past 12 months. 396 million, 419,451. That's not very encouraging when a guy's going over a budget, is it? I tell you. 396,419,451 gallons of wastewater, 1.2 million miles driven annually. And if you think about it, we serve the entire county. So our system, our infrastructure, is not concentrated in one municipality. So we are literally driving from Holly Ridge to Swansboro to Richlands, everywhere in between. Every meter in the ground, over 52,000 water meters that are in the ground, part of our service project. I mean, it's all over the place. Really proud of our office staff. We're up to 162,000 main office phone calls handled annually. Work orders and service orders processed annually 62,886, all over 1,215 miles of water mains, and 150 facilities to maintain. Now, when we say facilities, they may not be large facilities, but they're all very important facilities. So a pump station for water or a pump station for sewer, it may not be the biggest building you've ever seen. Now, we do have a couple of big facilities, our water plants at Hubert and at Dixon, our main office, our laboratory. So all those are facilities, but even that small brick building that's a well site is incredibly important because that's producing, it could be over 1 million gallons per day of water for our customers. So each one of those has computer equipment. It's got pumps, it's got motors, commercial power, backup power, security, all of these things that we have to maintain. So that's all over the county. Overall, we're the 10th largest public water provider in North Carolina, and when I say public water provider, I'm talking about other units of government, cities, certainly Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. There are some big cities out there that produce more water than we do, serve a much larger population in some instances. But in terms of authorities, we're the 3rd largest water authority in North Carolina, this special unit of government where our sole purpose is just water and wastewater. So overall, we provide a vital service to the public, and that vital service does require a lot of moving parts. And so right now, I'd like to ask our Chief Financial Officer, who's always there with her staff in every part of the budget process, to give us a few budget details for the benefit of the public. Ms. Riggs, I'm going to pass the clicker to you.
Good evening. I'll try not to get too far down in the weeds and bore everyone with all the figures. But just to give you a bit of a background to the budget drivers, the things that we look at when we're trying to put the budget together and make sure that there's certain items that we have to account for and make sure that we have sufficient funding to operate throughout the year. We must make sure that our current revenues equal our current expenses. And that's different from the cities and counties. They don't necessarily have to follow the same guidelines we do to meet our bond requirements. And also it helps to make sure that we have good financial stability. That's how we're measured. We're not measured like cities and counties with requiring 8% reserve fund balance. Ours is based off of financial stability and how well our revenue covers our expenses. We have increased customer demand over the last 12 months. The water accounts have increased 3% and the sewer have increased by 6%. And comparing March of 2020 to March of 2021, The increased billing for water was up 17% and sewer was up 22% for gallons billed. We have increased operational costs from last year's budget to this year's budget, and a lot of these are items that we just cannot go without. There's no reducing it, trimming it, such as utilities. They're up 13%. Fuel, we're up by 5%. Treatment supplies for both water and wastewater, up 5%. Wastewater treatment, 21%. Our general liability and auto insurance is up 16%. And also in this year's budget, proposed budget, we've added back the purchase of water from our sister utilities. We make sure through the course of the budget that we're adhering to the capital plan, and we included all the necessary items with the preparation of the budget associated with the CIP. We've made sure we met the requirements of the rate study that Raftellus provided to us. And as Mr. Hudson mentioned, the two main goals while preparing the budget for the ONWASA, of the ONWASA strategic plan is the reliable and sufficient infrastructure and financial stewardship. The budget at a glance. So we balanced the budget at $31.1 million. The unreserved fund balance at the time of the budget was around $25 million. Our user fees, water and sewer, are the primary revenue sources each year for us, and this year they're $25.3 million. We have a $1 million disaster contingency contract in place for any unforeseen disasters that may arise throughout the year. We have $314,000 budgeted for our continuing cybersecurity. We've appropriated $1,537,311 for one-time capital requests. And we have not included any COLA or merit increases for staff this year. Sources of revenue. Those are the major categories of revenue for us throughout the year. Out of the 6 of those, water and sewer user fees are the 2 largest, and they total 81.4% of the budget. The next largest is the system development fee at 7.7%, which leaves administrative fees, service fees, and the fund balance appropriated to make up the remaining 10.9%. Total expenditures for the year. The operating and personnel costs make up 64.5% of total expenditures and are only 2% higher than last year's budget. The total O&M compared to last year's adopted budget has increased 3%. This increase is within the parameters used to do the rate study. Also, as Mr. Hudson mentioned earlier, after we received requests from staff and final preparation for the proposed budget for presentation tonight, we cut over $1.7 million in staff requests. Since Mr. Moore just went over the capital projects, mainly the first 5, I'm going to skip over those and save us a little time and just go over the new projects that are included in this year's proposed budget. So we've included the Hubert Water Plant Filter Rehabilitation Project, which is roughly $200,000. We've included the Dixon Water Plant Filter Pump Replacement, which is roughly $73,650. And the replacement of 6 vehicles that totals $370,501, which is for 1 mid-size truck, 2 full-size trucks, and 3 crew cab trucks. Once we have cycled through purchasing and selling these trucks, and we have 3 more current vehicles to sell, that will put our fleet at 72 vehicles. Any questions so far? Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain what the thought process is and no COLAs or merit increases like that in a year that we suffered quite a bit?
I can, Director. Basically, we're looking at the parameters that Raftellus gave us for our financials. We need to keep, on an annual basis from now on, around the 3% increase in operations and maintenance. And also, we were looking at the Raftellus proposed rate increase. That's around 8%. So we've hit the 8% rate increase recommendation and the 3% increase in operation and maintenance. As it happened, we delayed the COLA from July of 2020 to January of 2021. So all the staff in ONWASA received a 3% raise just a couple of months, well, in January of 2021. The CPI index was was not too much more than 1.5 or so percent. So we're looking at, with a CPI of 1.5%, and they just got a 3% raise, or staff got a 3% raise in January. True, it was delayed from July to January, but we felt that we might be able to go forward without a cost of living adjustment this year. We don't know what our sister units of government are doing locally. I have heard that some municipalities, even though they may have delayed a cost of living adjustment, may be doing another one in July. I'm certain our staff would appreciate any consideration, but right now, in the recommended budget, there isn't one. If in fact we don't have a COLA or a merit increase, I would absolutely recommend something the state of North Carolina has done in the past, and Onslow County government, maybe some other municipalities, I'm not sure, and that's been the granting of bonus days or annual bonus leave on top of anything that they would normally accrue. The last time that was done by the state, I believe, was 2019, and they granted 5 bonus days to all state employees in lieu of some additional pay.
Well, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I would like us to be able to look at this even if it's at a later date. I just don't think it's right not to give employees something.
I would say I would like to see us plan on giving them something. It may not have to be in July. I would defer to you all for that recommendation. But I do think that as an employee, it's nice to have something to look forward to and to be commended for the hard work that they've put in. So I'm also not opposed to whether it's a merit or whether it's a COLA, but I do think that we should have something in the budget for the employees, for sure.
Do we have market data? Do we know if we're paying market rates?
It varies for different positions, and it also varies who you would compare to. We cannot compare ourselves to the base. We've lost wastewater plant operators, water plant operators to the base. We do compare favorably with the city of Jacksonville, the other major utility player, and we compare very favorably with Pluris on the wastewater side and other private utility providers in Onslow County. We're pretty competitive with Greenville Utilities and pretty competitive with Cape Fear Public Utilities. There are a couple of positions like I said, it depends on what your skill level is. The highest level wastewater plant operator, the highest level water plant operator, it might vary from place to place. If there was a recommendation that I could make, if the board would consider anything for staff, I would recommend a COLA, across the board cost of living adjustment, as opposed to, that's probably the first thing that staff would appreciate. If we were making any change in that regard.
Well, you got a public hearing scheduled for May 20th, right?
Yes, sir.
And adoption date is when?
It could be any time after the public hearing at the direction of the board.
So there'll be ample time for you to gather information in terms of what other municipalities may be doing or the state, so that we could take action to incorporate those possibilities into the budget before it's adopted.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I can tell you that the base gave 1% COLA this year.
I can tell you that North Topsail Beach has budgeted a COLA as well. I believe we were at 2. And
Directors, if I could, Mr. Chairman, we'll gather more information on COLAs, and I'll send a report out to the board on that, and we'll be prepared to do something else following the public hearing.
All right. Is that satisfactory for everybody?
yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Okay, continue.
Any additional questions?
The 8% increase as the average, so that people will know out TV land, on what would that come to on the bill?
For the average water user, it's $2.38 a month.
The slide you had on revenue system development fees, is that attributable to growth?
Yes, sir.
And that was what, 7%?
7.7%.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Click.
Hearing none, and we need a motion to set the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 22 budget at the Board of Directors meeting in the Jacksonville City Hall Council Chambers on May 20th, 2021 at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Moved.
Second?
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion is adopted. Do we have anybody from the public, aside from the ONWASA faithful?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a closed session scheduled. Need a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11, parentheses A, parentheses 1, and NCGS 132-1.7.
So moved.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay, we'll reconvene the regular meeting of the ONWASA Board of Directors. A report that no significant action was taken during the closed session. We now have at the point of the agenda for the Chief Executive Officer's comments. Jeff?
Chairman, I'd just like to take one moment and thank staff of the Finance Department and all the department heads, our leadership team, for their work in drafting the proposed budget. There were a lot of hours spent, and they are all excellent, excellent public servants, and it's a pleasure to serve with them. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Board of Directors comments. Start at that end. Bob? Tim? Royce?
No comment.
Paul?
Nothing.
Greg?
Just thank the ones that watch us on TV and hope they got a lot of information from us tonight.
Joanne?
No comment?
Pat? All right. I have no comments, so we will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, so moved, so moved.
Second and adopted. Second. Third.